Dragi gledalci, zakuvava se pred kraj trade deadline-a, svi znamo da je ostao još samo jedan dan, svi su nekako čekali i taj poslednji trenutak. Vidimo da sve više i više trade-ova se dešava zadnjih dan, dva, tako da smo osetili neku potrebu da napravimo i specijal koji je baš vezan za trade-ove. Na svu sreću i Ozzie nam je ozdravio, došao je sebi, pa imamo tu priliku da čujemo neke informacije i od njega, tako da je želeo sam danas da napravim emisiju vanredno, specijal za trade-ove, da malo popričamo šta se desilo do sada i šta možemo da očekujemo ovih zadnjih 24 sata. Pa za početak, Ozzie, ćao, kako si? Dobro nam došao opet.
Odlično, nema problema.
Nema problema, to mi je drago. Well, we'll continue in English. It's easier and maybe we have a few viewers as we got information from other countries. So let's start from the beginning. This morning, I turned on my phone and I saw instantly that finally Taylor Hall finished that trade. Everybody thought he's going to be Boston. It ended up Boston. It's exchanged for a Bjork and a second round pick. They didn't say which one, but tell me something more about that cap hit and other information about that trade. And what do you think about Hall in Boston?
Well, the cap hit is whatever's left on Taylor's salary. So whatever's left on Taylor's salary, which I checked was about 1.8 something. So they've got a cap hit of 900,000 and some change, which is not, a big deal to get a rent-a player. He has a 1-year contract, so he's going to re-sign probably test free agency because now he's stepping into a locker room that is the complete antithesis of what the Buffalo Sabres were. I mean, you're going into a winning locker room, and I don't know, Taylor Hall, as far as playoffs, hasn't done much. I don't think he likes that season. I think he likes to finish up early.
Play golf during the summer.
Exactly. I mean, I don't blame him. That's the type of player he is. That's what he's been all about, and that's his nature. So when you step into the Boston Bruins now, I mean, you're stepping into the Bears den. I mean, this is a tradition. These are guys that are used to winning, that almost have to win on a regular basis, and they are deadly in the playoffs. I mean, they have a tradition, and when you put on that shirt and the playoffs start, for them, it's the real season. The regular season is for them a warm-up. So this year, it's been a short season, and they are going to come out gunning. Now, is Taylor going to, I don't know which line he's going to be on, 3 goals, 6 assists. You're losing every night. That's a big transition. How is he going to transit into that? I wouldn't hold my breath. I mean, is he going to explode all of a sudden? It's possible, but, like your past is indicative of your future. So you're coming into a place which is, you're one of the guys. You're not the top guy. It's going to take time to gel. There's a few guys in there are really not going to like him because don't forget, he's taking a job now. He's taking somebody's place in the lineup, and they have to showcase him. They have to give him all the opportunities, which is not going to be easy for somebody that all of a sudden is going to have to take a backseat to him. And it's going to make a lot of guys unhappy in there. If he starts putting up the points, if he starts progressing and stop also being he's a brooder, when it doesn't go his way, he's a big kid. So is that going to be tolerated? Highly doubt it. In the Bruins environment, if Z was there, it would be easy. But he's not.
I agree. Like Z would have that under control, but I think now it's a problem. Z is not there. They're having a bad run in the last couple of weeks. Like they're going downhill. Like let's just think. They were sitting at the first, and like 2 weeks ago, they were like, yes, we are sure we are in the playoffs. But now, like, they need to fight for the playoffs. Do you think that now Taylor Hall
I was telling you, like, and this is, to me, it's a knucklehead move because you're bringing a guy with a bad reputation from a losing team and you're on a losing run. And now you're going to have to hope and pray that something can be turned around. And you gave up a pretty good prospect and a second-round draft pick, which the Bruins, if you look at their second-round draft picks, have been really, really good. So they're banking a lot on this guy. There's going to be tremendous amount of pressure compared to Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo, the fan viewership has fallen off. I mean, when you're losing all the time, who wants to watch a losing team? Now you're going into a city, and the energy there with the Boston Bruins is crazy. I personally think it's, from the beginning, it's going to crush him. It's not going to be easy. And he better change his tune, which personally, I don't know. I don't know that he has it in him, because I've seen guys in the AHL, and they don't seem to realize that most of the guys that are on the third, fourth lines in the NHL, not all of them, a lot of them are 50-goal scorers in the juniors or in their respective leagues. So if you're not willing to change, to take a new role on a team, you're not going to survive very, very long in certain environments. That's why you see certain guys there. They're trying to find their niche, where they want to be kind of left alone, and not necessarily left alone, but they also, teams sometimes do everything to make that guy have a hard time in the playoffs. Like, Thomas Plekanec would put up always 60 points, but in the playoffs, he would disappear. And it's not because Thomas didn't want to. It's because they would change his role in the playoffs, and they didn't understand that, and he would have produced a lot more, but they're just, Montreal are typically, they're assholes.
Okay, but let's stick with this part. What do you think about addition of Curtis Lazar to Boston together with Holt? Can he do something similar like Roslovic? I don't see that happening, but
he hasn't done much in Ottawa, and Ottawa didn't have what it had then. I mean, he went to Buffalo, another losing team. So you're getting two guys with a losing mentality. I mean, Curtis can try as much as he wants, but he's got to drop the gloves. He's got to do the dirty work as a new guy, which I don't think he wants to do that, nor is he capable of. He's not a heavyweight. He's not a tough lightweight. And I don't think he's willing to do that. I mean, Curtis was a top guy in the juniors, and here's another guy who doesn't want to accept the role, thinks he's still, the shit, and he can do things. Unfortunately, for some of them, they get to the NHL, and at their best, they're not even good enough for fourth lines. At their best.
That's a huge problem. But when we're talking about somebody who is good in lower leagues, I want to talk a little bit about Rask. Like there are rumors that he's having trouble with injuries, and who knows how long is he gonna perform this year. What do you think about this kid, Swayman? That kid is in NCAA over 92%, in HL.
The NCAA and the NHL is two different animals. Don't forget, you're playing with people that are almost your own age. Yes, you get 4 years to develop. But, I've had kids before that go and I tell them, look, you're playing at this level, train with guys at this level. Why? Because the shots and the power is that level. Now they go off and they practice with NHLers. They come back and they're completely lost because now the game is too slow for them. And then they start to precipitate things. For goalies, when the shots are coming, not only fast, but I mean, you're looking at guys that are so depth, that can trick you in so many ways compared to college players. Don't forget, in college, you're not facing always the cream of the crop. There's usually one top line, and after that, it's diggers. It depends on their recruiting. So you're not getting the quality shots. And those college guys can practice with NHLers in the summer. They can do whatever they want. But you cannot, and I keep telling this to families and players and kids that are going there. You cannot substitute the NHL for college or the AHL. It's just not the same animal. You're getting, all of a sudden, 4 lines of people that can do things better than your best college guys almost at any given time. So it's like comparing apples to oranges. It's not the same thing. Yes, the short term, some of them can, like Campbell is doing now, but when the real pressure hits, believe me, Patrick Lalime went through that when he got his record, but then he got into the playoffs and completely folded.
Yeah,
you know, there's only so much.
I mean, if we start with Campbell right now, there's no way that we are going to even touch anything about the trade. So I will.
But that kid
skip
Swan
a little
is
bit
a
about.
very good prospect. Yeah. Is he ready
Yeah,
to
I agree.
jump into the playoffs? Yeah. I mean, sometimes miracles happen, but to jump into the playoffs and to jump into a run when the team's been losing, it's you're playing the river on a very weak hand in poker here.
Yeah, I mean, Boston definitely feels that they have a lot of holes, and they had additionally Mike Riley. I don't want to talk about Mike Riley right now because I think there is bigger fish to fry. I'm talking about
Mike Riley. I think he's from Ottawa.
Yeah, from Ottawa.
So you're getting another losing mentality in. So I mean, to me, it's difficult to understand their thought process. Where you see the Islanders getting better all the time, Colorado is getting better. Tampa Bay has jumped in all of a sudden, and even Tampa Bay went away from what they do best, is developing the kids within their own system.
Yeah, because Steve Yzerman is not there anymore, so now it's a different story. And now you said Tampa. I want to touch that trade when Toronto put their fingers a little bit. And we all know that Savarda, he just got a message like, you're traded. But actually, Tampa figured out that they have a problem with the cap hit and they cannot fit him. So they needed to call their old buddy Steve Yzerman. They said, hey, can you take 25% of our cap hit for Savarda? And in exchange, you will get a 4th-round pick. Of course, Yzerman said yes. There's nothing to lose for him.
Because so Savard, very little money on Savard, whatever's left on his contract. Now you're getting a 4th-round pick, which Yzerman, before he said that, for sure he checked. He knows. Yeah, he checked what's going to be available. He's not stupid. He knows. And Detroit's going to be, look, like I told you, there's cycles, and it's always about people. And people tell me GMs. I go, look, GMs, for the most part, are puppets and morons. The people that pull the strings in the back are the presidents of hockey operations. End of story. And they're not all very bright. And if they don't have the right support, then you have the Peter Chiarellis who go to Edmonton and start to build something up. People say he destroyed it, but now he's gone. And look at the Oilers. It's not true. Bob Gainey did that with the Canadians when there was another president. So, I mean, it depends how teams work. It depends how closely they work. And if they have a good player development guy, that's crucial. If you have a good player development guy, he can do more for you than anything else, because when the crunch time comes for trades and making significant moves and drafting, he's the guy you want to consult, because he's going to know exactly if he's good, if he's bright, short-term, mid-term, long-term. You know, you need to have at least a 5-6 year plan. You know, it's not in stone, but at least you know what's leaving and you know what's coming. It's kind of like college, you know, after the 4 years, the seniors are leaving, what's coming. So there's always a new wave, but they don't plan this very well. And some guys are very, very good. If you look at the way they construct their administration, they're very smart in putting key people in key places. And other places like Florida, you know, I have nothing against Sean Thornton. You know, the guy fought his butt off to stay in the NHL, but he's the player development guy in Florida. And now you see Florida making 1 million trades, signing Gusev. I mean, they're just going all over the place. They're scrambling. Because
Gusev is having a tough time.
What do you think, Sean?
But obviously,
what do you think Sean's
they
doing
see something in him that, I mean, we all know that he's a good player. He showed that in the KHL. That's not an easy league to play, but he can find himself in NHL. So maybe they have somebody who is like, okay, I know what this guy is missing. So let's bring him.
No, because he was signed for 1 year. They actually don't, because you go back to your player development guy and you ask him, and your player development guy is playing with Legos in the corner. You know, and you're asking him, what's the scouting? What's like short-term, medium-term, long-term? You know, you got to look in the past. You got to look on everything you have on this guy, off the ice, on the ice habits, you know, training, you know, and this is sometimes in the KHL is a problem, because a lot of the guys don't train to jump into the NHL long-term. Or mid-term. They jump in short-term, and then all of a sudden you see them kind of fold, and they have their peaks and valleys. And Some will make it, some won't, because they're not prepared the same. If the KHL and the NHL is a different grind, you know.
But we moved from Tampa. The funny thing in Tampa, Point and Kucherov were really important player. Point was 79th pick and Kucherov was 58th pick. So like you can find really good players.
Oh, you can find players, incredible players later on. But that's what I'm telling you. Your player development guy, it's not your scouting guy. It's your player development guy who has to sit down. You know, sometimes they have sit downs with you know, president of operations. You know, they had Phil Esposito doing that for Tampa Bay, and he missed out on a lot of guys because Phil is all about talking about himself, which is fine if,
players.
You know, if you're an ESPN, but you're interviewing the future of your organization. I mean, I've seen that. I've kind of asked certain players what they were asked, and it still baffles me. You know, if I was in that position, which I'll never be because I'm not from Yale, I'm not part of the boys club, I'm not from Harvard, I'm not, you know, with these people. But I would know probably within 2 years would be competitive for the cup easily, because they just don't go into those places and find the dark horses. They some of them, I'm telling you, it's ridiculous how they can destroy organizations. I mean, you look at Kim Pegula and Buffalo Sabres. There's a lady from Seoul, South Korea, and she's like an analyst. She's really bright. She's a mathematician, you know, goes in, buys the Sabres and destroys the team. And it's just good at branding, but has no idea what hockey is and just takes her husband's money and then goes into a group with Bon Jovi, Trump, and like the sports media there, Toronto, that owns the Leafs, and they go buy an NFL club. Like, isn't that like, you know, conflict of interest? You know, like there's just so much we're so incestuous. But bottom line is, you know, you put people like that just, oh, here you go, I'm just gonna spend money, honey, and then the guy that made the money just lets it happen, and then Buffalo gets destroyed in 2 years.
Totally destroyed. Like, if we talk about, we didn't finish about Savarda and Tampa, but you said Buffalo. What do you think? I don't see right now that in next 24 hours there's a way for Jack Eichel to move. I can feel like this summer
they can't move Jack at this point now, because Taylor Hall is gone. What do you have left? You have a skeleton left. Lazar left. Montour left, I think. Stahl left. You know, you've just basically gutted the whole organization. And now, who do they have left in the minors, and who do they left as draft pick? I mean, even Sam Reinhart, as best as he can do, once that losing spirit, I'm telling you, kicks in, this is going to be one tough organization to rebuild, unless they ask for a first-round draft pick. And don't forget, next year, even if they finish last, the Kraken's going to get the first-round pick. Unless they send Eichel there, you won't do that, because who's the first guy next year? He's not that great. The year after, you got Shane Wright, and you told me there's another kid that's coming. So, you know, like, it's almost sometimes, you know, certain teams were blamed. From what I see, and I'm not going to say that I know, they're almost doing it on purpose to rebuild the team with first rounders. You know?
I mean, Columbus got 2 first rounders, and that's a huge difference, getting 2 first rounders and you have your own first rounder. So this year they will have a free picks in first round. That's huge. And they let go Folina and Savard. We all know that it's their last year, so maybe they can even go back. Maybe it's just a rental.
They will go back,
and they go to Columbus, and they got free round 1 picks this summer. What do you think about this?
Look at where they went. They went to Tampa Bay, which is heavy on everything. I mean, they have very few holes, Tampa Bay. You know, they're solid across all 4 lines. I mean, they traded away Cedric Paquette, which to me was a mistake. But then again, you know, he's a guy that brings his lunch pail. He's a hard worker, but he's starting to cost a lot for a third liner. So I'm sure they have somebody in the organization ready to step in and develop. But now you got big stars in there. And then you send Foligno to a big star team again in Toronto. Forget it. It's going to be especially him as a captain. And so Savard is very, very tight with Nick. I mean, these are two leaders of the team. Now you're going into one team that's Toronto, that's leaderless for me, because you kind of see there's nothing there. I mean, Marlowe was there for a year and he took off. Jumbo's there and he'll take off. And what is Tavares doing? What kind of respect is he getting? None. And then you go, Savarda will do well in Tampa Bay because it's a great crew, but he's not going to have the same importance or the same stature in the locker room. So I would not be surprised those two guys go back because they get along with Torts. They're guys that Torts loves. He doesn't have to coach them a lot. You know, he doesn't have to tell them what to do. They almost coach Torts. Because, I mean, Tortorella is not the brightest guy he's a bit of a moron. I told you the story in the elevator.
No, you didn't.
No, I
told
you. Well, we went to play a junior game, and I'm there walking to the with my buddy Sean, and we're walking to the elevator, and we hear Andy. We turn around. Who is it? You got Dave Andrechuk, and he's supporting with Torts, is completely drunk, and Craig Ramsey is he's unconscious. He's like stone drunk. And hold on the elevator, you know, we got to get in, you know, we got to let people see this. And I'm looking at these, and these are guys that are head coaches, assistant coaches, and vice presidents of community operations. These are the guys that are, you know, that we look up to, that we think know something, and they fold under pressure, and they're just a bunch of college yahoos. And I mean, I can't even repeat what they were saying in the elevator. We have to bring him to the room. That complete. I mean, come on. And now you're going to tell me, and I've been in this business now for 12 years, and you're telling me that, you know, a goat can't outmaneuver these guys? That they're, you know, there's some very bright people up there, but like everything else, you know, just like the league, you have some real stars. And then you have some jokers, some clowns that have no clout. They're there because of many reasons, you know, like Ron Hextall. I mean, what's he going to do in Pittsburgh? He's not there to make decisions. He's never been there to make decisions.
We all know that Berkey is running all those strings. But let's stick a little longer about Savard, who is having a tough season in Columbus, like -9 or something like that. At some point, he was -13. And he needs to go to Tampa. That, of course, Shattenkirk is not there anymore. Okay. And Chernak is having issue with the injuries. McDonough also, like, he needs to.
He's gonna pony it up. But sorry, even at his -13, did Tortorella ever bench him?
Oh yeah, that's true.
You know, did he ever bench him? Did he ever cut his ice time? Did he do anything? Because some guys can walk around with a -13, but believe me, they do so much more off the ice and on the ice and repair a ton of mistakes that guys make up the ice. And, you know, they're kind of left alone. And Savard is the same type of guy. He'll never complain about that. He brings his light. He's a team guy. And that's why you don't cut a guy like that's ice time, because he basically, it would be a slaughter. You know, other guys would be at -50. He's only -13, you know, and on a good team, you'll see once he kind of gels in, they're going to make a run for him. And if I was David, I would use whatever I do in Tampa Bay to renegotiate something really good in Columbus, because he's going to really now kind of shine and show what he's best at, because it's hard when a guy has 5-6 more responsibilities than he's actually being paid for. You know,
I agree.
He's only -13, you know, and Nick Foligno in that room, you could say anything you want about Nick Foligno, but you don't give a guy the C because he's a dum-dum. He shows up, he fights, he does everything to stir that team up and lead them. Yes, he's not the brightest guy in the world, but that's okay. He's playing hockey.
Yeah, you know? I think that Toronto really needed a guy like Foligno. Like, he'll bring some more good positive energy, and maybe he can help them.
He's a playoff guy. He's a playoff guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Guy. But from what I see over here, I feel like Columbus is like, okay, we are not going to make it to the playoffs. Even if we do with these small chances, like, we're not going to do anything this year. Let's get something in return. I have a feeling that they got good trades. actually rentals, and that at least one of these two guys are going to go back to Columbus. So good job for you guys, and we'll see next season what this way of thinking is bringing. But the thing that I'm shocked, I need to say that, they want Dubnyk to Colorado in exchange of Grad Paterny. I mean, Colorado needs a good goalie. We all know that. Like, they need a guy who is a really good second goalie who can play well, and I don't see that in Dubnyk.
No.
Like, what is his performance in the playoffs? Actually, to start with this season, he's at 89%, and he's a backup of Jones. So, like, that's not a good percentage. You're not getting that many games, and you don't have a good
think
percentage.
Jones is much better either.
Yes, only Jones is much better. But I think he had 4 years in the playoffs. Only once he made it to a second round, and he's always around 90%. Can you really put the trust in that guy for Colorado in the playoffs? I don't see this as a good thing.
Look, I'm not going to say anything because a lot of the stuff, I was saying was in the works, but, Stahl ended up going somewhere else. But I had a lot of stuff that, because you always have to understand, Ivan, there's a lot of chickens out there. There's a lot of GMs and presidents of hockey operations that talk big, but they're huge chickens. Sometimes you can actually tell them what to do, what's better for their organization, and they won't do it just because it has to be me, And you see sometimes the squabble between GMs and presidents, and sometimes the GM will draft a guy just to spite the other guy up there and say, it's me. Like Colorado had something set up with Pricey that they, and another team that would have been ideal. But unfortunately, you have Sakic there who basically does what he wants. And if you've heard some of the stories, I mean, he was in Colorado and looking at the coach and saying, I don't like that drill. I do another one. So Joe is that type of guy, and unfortunately, I think it's a big mistake.
It's a huge mistake. Like, you can't tell me that Dubnyk is the guy.
No, he's not even a good second. If you can't be a good second, you're at 89%. I mean, I think he's the worst second in the league.
Pretty much.
So you take the worst second, and you have
Reimer is 89 also, but he's not second anymore. He's third.
But I'm just saying, like, look at the company you're keeping. Vidi kompaniju što on drži. Uzimo si najlošije od drugih i imao si trade za price, što bi nije, vrlo malo bi im koštalo. Oni bi sad nasamarili Berževena kao što su sa Patrick Roy. I on nije kako se zove, didn't pull the trigger.
Why? Like, that, you're saying that was a done deal, that Price wants to finish the season in Colorado and he's in Kraken next season? Are you saying that?
I'm not saying that 100% because there's a lot of things, but in essence, yes. There was something in those terms, and it would have cost the Kraken and Colorado very little, and Montreal would have been unfortunately paid back for the Pacioretty deal because they got too much. They got Suzuki, they got Tatar, and they got that kid Norlander who's in Frölunda, and he's performing. So bottom line is you got to pay for something in the end. And, you can't get three really good players for max that, yes, he's performed, but Tatar, Suzuki, they've, doubled or almost tripled the points that Pacioretty's gotten. But, in the playoffs, I got to admit, Patch did his job, and he got them to where they wanted to make that impact the first year, because it was a first-year impact. They wanted to do that. But bottom line is they had something really wonderful set up, and Pricey was up for it, and then Joe didn't pull the trigger.
I can't believe, like, that would be the best move ever. Like, with Price and Grubauer, to have those two goalies, like, that's at least the finals.
Yeah,
at least the finals.
At least, and don't kid yourself with certain titles. There's certain guys in certain organizations, they run it. You go to Toronto, don't look further than Shanahan. Dubas is nobody. Shanahan runs that. He's the president of operations. And if you look at all the presidents of operations in the National Hockey League, it's funny that in Canada, 3 of them are vacant. there's no president of operations. Why is that? Why is it not crucial enough and they're all not really the best teams. You know, it's funny when you look at the circles, these people and how they're connected. It's an absolute joke that some of them will never do anything daring or bold. And then you see an Yzerman who will go back to Detroit and they'll be competitive again.
I 100% agree. Like in 3 years, we said it in the same time, the same number, 3 years, and that's it. Like he's grabbing all the draft picks that he can, and we know that he knows how to draft. He has a smell.
And he hires the right people to surround him, because Stevie in the end has to make a decision. And Steve Yzerman is no dummy, but he's not also a guy that is going to just tell everybody else, I'll do what I want. He listens, he gets it, but ultimately he makes the decision. And that's what Tampa Bay did well. You know, I had a situation with a player where he told the player, bottom line, it's you're weak, you know, you're a coward. So he got rid of him. And it was the best thing he ever did. But he's also bold enough to tell you that to your face and go out and do what he's supposed to do, because he knows how to put the puzzle together. Other guys are just good at destroying. They don't know.
What do you think about Don Wendell, who is saying that Carolina doesn't need 3 good goalies right now, and that he's not going to speak about names, but if there's something good, that maybe he will trade 1 goalie. I don't think that Mrazek is going anywhere, and I think it would be smart to keep Alex Nedeljkovic. They call him Ned. But is there a chance that Reimer can go somewhere and they get somebody in return in these last 24 hours?
Well, look, if you're into the second goalie, the loser guy, I mean, Dubnyk-'s been traded. I mean, anything's possible. Now, Reimer has a unique ability to his teammates like him. He has a good reputation with teammates. He works hard in the practices. In the games, it's another story. So it goes a little deeper than that. Will he be moved? I highly doubt it, because he's at the end of his strength. Now, are they going to move Nedeljkovic? If they do, it'd be stupid. He's their future. And Mrazek, there's a possibility, but I think that Mrazek would probably go to another team that kind of needs that third backup, you know, and it's riding high now, like Arizona. Wouldn't be surprised. But then again, you know, these are the last moments of the trade deadline. Anything heard that Price is back on the block, but there's some stumbling blocks because, you know, he's a heavy and he has a no trade clause. Now, why is it back on? Because when one guy makes a dumb mistake, so there's always somebody there to pick up the everybody knows in the league. Everybody knows what happened, and now they look at the structure of it and they get ideas, because they say, "What if they got away with this? What can we get away with?" So, you know, Pricey's not stupid, and he might want to move and short term, and then Seattle's the next fit, because obviously, you know, you have a limited protection list, and if $10 million is gone, or at least 5. Which I doubt will be the case, because they're not going to pick up his salary to play against them. There's something in the works. Now, is it going to happen? I don't know, because usually when one thing doesn't happen, people get a little bit too, not scared, but they get greedy, and they don't think that it's worth it. And then it becomes an issue.
So he will sit cross hands in Montreal and wait for next season with Kraken. Do you have any other information, maybe some other trade that you think? I mean, people were talking about Ekholm, not so much anymore.
I don't think those guys are going to be moving at this point, especially I think the Predators are on a bit of a streak.
And fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, you're fighting for a playoff spot, and he's a big piece of their D. I don't think so. There's
anybody else?
Anybody else? I mean, you got Carter that left. I think he got traded. Jeff Carter got traded to where?
Jeff Carter?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, he got traded. I believe it's Pittsburgh. So, you know, they picked up a veteran guy. I think Pittsburgh's going to do something fairly big. I don't know how big, but like I told you, they need some grit.
Like in these last 24 hours big, or during the summer big?
Well, look, there's a kid that I like. There's a guy that I've always liked, and his name is Vince Dunn with St. Louis. He's a tough guy, knocked out Curtis Gabriel. He plays stay-home defensive hockey. Very tough. He can go up against Revo and any of the heavyweights. He's not scared. And plus, he brings a big ton of confidence when he's in front of that. You're not going to rush that goalie. You're not going to crash in him. You're not going to start pulling the little yapping, and the type of stuff that Marchman can pull and other guys were pulling in certain goalies. So to me, if anybody moves, it'll be like a guy like Vince Dunn. And if you can get that toughness back there, like even Montreal should be looking at that, because you got no fighters in Montreal. And it's starting to become a league that, you need that toughness all of a sudden.
That's what I was talking last episode. I'm planning to talk more about that toughness. Like I can feel there is more fights, and the clubs are finally realizing we need that toughness more and more. And you were right, Jeff Carter. That's from today, and he signed with Pittsburgh for a draft pick in 2022 and 2023. The last guy maybe to mention, Glendeling. Do you see him move anywhere?
Glendeling's a good guy. I don't think he's a Stevie Yzerman type of guy. Not for now. He just doesn't seem to have the fit there. I think Montreal is really looking at that guy. They need that to kind of support. I think he's a third liner at best in Montreal. And, you've got a lot of rookies there, and he would be a good fit. He's kind of like that guy that's not too old, not too young, has respect on both sides. And you need guys like that to kind of explain to the young guys what they went through, and then explain to the older guys that, look, you can't be that hard, because, Shea Weber and Price, they're merciless. They've been in the league a long time. They've been superstars. They don't tolerate a lot of bullshit. They didn't tolerate PK very long. So, they don't tolerate guys that take too long to pick up on the flow of the team, the culture. So okay. I think Glendeling would be a good addition to any team, but in my, if that's a guy that would fit in really well with Montreal and Pittsburgh. That's what I think. I
wanted to say Pittsburgh. I wanted to let you finish, because Pittsburgh really need one more centerman who is really good, and Glendeling is the best face-off winner this season. So, I mean, we are already like through the time, and so, dragi gledalci, preći na srpskom za odjavu. Zahvalio bi se Ozziju na svim informacijama koje nam je dao. Ovo je bila mala analiza trejdova i onog šta još može da se desi u naredna 24 sata. Sledećeg petka, odnosno petka koji je ispred nas, ćemo pričati malo možda i detaljnije o svemu tome. Ozzie, hvala ti puno na izdvojenom vremenu i vidimo se u petak, zar ne?
Nema čemu. I za svi našim Srbima što slušaju, dobar dan, prijatno, i u petak ćemo da se opet vidimo i vidjet ćemo da li je Price još u Montrealu. Ako jeste, ali ja sam siguran da će Glendening ili u Montrealu ili u Pittsburghu, moraju, zato što u Montrealu, od kad su izgubili Perot, Janik, face-off, to je vrlo važno u play-off da imaš taj što možda pobedi, da uvek imaš kontrolu paka. Ja mislim da Glendening će biti sada jedan fokus, ali isto će ja mislim u zadnjim minutima. Ja sam video nešto na papiru, ako se stvori ovo će biti mega, ako ne, to je promašen oportunitet. Već je jedan promašio levak u Koloradu, ali nikad se ne zna. Uvijek se može vratiti na nešto, ali drugi put možda bude skuplje.
Sad će da bude Dubnyk da ide u Montreal za Price-a ili tako nešto.
Sve je moguće. Sve je
moguće, ali nećemo se baš toliko igrati. Ovo je bila šala, dragi gledalci. Ostavite nam komentare, šta vi mislite o trejdovima. Možda postavite neka i pitanja o kojima možemo da pričamo i u petak, tako da hvala vam puno. Like, subscribe, komentar i vidimo se već u petak.